Here on the Digital Investor Podcast, we love talking about growing by acquisitions, or layman's terms, growing by buying existing businesses. Now, within that space, of course, we love digital assets or online businesses. But if we go down even more niche, there is an untapped opportunity in there that is now starting to come through, especially here in Australia, because it's already happening in America. So there's potentially a lot of opportunity here, or a lot of money to be made if you get this one right. So what I thought I would do today is bring along one of the world experts or leading brokers in this space who is watching this trend unfold before her very eyes, and that is Fiona Laidlaw from Flippa. Fiona is the, let me get her title correct here. Fiona is the Regional Director for Asia Pacific, but more importantly, she's a Senior M&A broker at Flippa, which is one of the world's or the world's largest online marketplace for online businesses. So she sees lots and lots of deals, in particular, seven-figure deals. So Fiona, awesome to have you on here today, all the way from Singapore. Thank you for coming along.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. What an intro. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, come on, you're a legend, and yeah, you've got to own it here. You're doing these amazing big deals, but also, your specialty is in selling high value online businesses. But I did want to jump into this new exciting trend that we're talking about, and we had you speaking at one of our events recently about it, and the audience just loved it. Can you tell us, what are you seeing? What is this new trend that I'm alluding to here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for context, I work with business owners in Australia and Asia and New Zealand. So, covering that region, we are seeing a really interesting trend of digital agencies popping up for sale, but also the demand for them, right? So it's not just a bunch of people trying to sell digital agencies. No, it is that buyers are also asking me for that. So it's really interesting and really exciting, to be honest.
So, begs question. This is awesome, by the way, because, gee, what are the chances that we happen to teach people how to build awesome digital agencies here at the e-business institute? But why are they asking for them? Why is there such an interesting? Because you deal with high net worth buyers, so people with a lot of money, through to big corporates, public listed companies. Why are they suddenly asking, or why are they asking for digital agents? Why is the interest there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a couple of different reasons, Matt. So the cost to acquire customers is just increasing, right? The figuring out how to acquire customers is getting kind of challenging as well, no matter what industry you're in. And so having an arm of your business, or a profitable, successful business already tapped into your portfolio that specializes in that is not only beneficial for your portfolio, but it's also a great new business that you can generate revenue from as well. And then if we're talking about kind of looking at the region, a lot of Australian businesses will outsource some of their operations to Indonesia or to the Philippines and things like that. And it stays within the region. So they are quite profitable businesses because they do have the talent, really good talent in this region. And they're not too capital heavy. So honestly, yeah, but buyers are looking to kind of strategically acquire these businesses to get obviously the revenue and income from them, but also to centralize their own operations and see the opportunity of being quite specialized within the niche.
Yeah, well, and for our listeners, obviously, our community, like we primarily train beginners in these strategies. But even for someone who's a beginner, I think there's some amazing lessons here in what you're talking about, because so Fiona deals with, high end, buyers, high net worth and stuff, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And we're going to talk through some examples. But if you're new to this community, understand too, this is something that once you've got the skills of how a digital agency works, you can do this at a small scale as well. So there's some really good lessons here for those of you who are doing this strategy, because as Fiona just said, one of the quickest way to grow is just bolt on an existing digital agency that's already make revenue positive and making money. And you can, we've always learnt, Fiona, off our personal mentors, go where the cash flow's going, like where the money's flowing, and follow what the rich people are doing. And if they're buying up digital agencies, you should probably, have a look at it, because there isn't, like you said, there is some big advantages here. Capital, low capital requirements to run, and really high cash flows. Is this something too that Aussies are hearing it here? This is something that's already big in America, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And even I have one that's on the market at the moment that's based out of Australia, and he gets a ton of inquiries from the US market,
Yeah.
because it helps because of the exchange rate at the moment. Aussie dollar's not amazing, and
Yeah.
so he can deliver the same quality of work, from your typical Western market to the US, but for a cheaper price than what they're charging over there. But
No.
to answer your question, yeah, it's definitely like a lot of larger businesses that I work with, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's SaaS or anything like that. They have a team that's an expert in product or development, but the marketing they outsource, because that's just it's a hard thing to crack.
So these agencies that you're seeing, so like we teach our guys start out building simple websites for smaller businesses and then obviously build on that. Is that the typical agency that you're seeing? I guess you see a whole range, but is that a typical agency that you see as a successful
Yeah,
firm?
so honestly, like, agencies very, very wide term, right? So
Yeah.
if I'm thinking of a few, then you have your SEO agency, right?
Yep. Perfect.
And that might, recently sold one of those for Australian business, and sold that to a publicly listed company. And that was an individual who was just in that industry. He knew it well. He just started off slowly and built a team around him. And then another one that's on the market at the moment is a marketing agency, a bit more general, not just SEO, but that is for hospitality clients.
Oh yeah.
So you can get very niche within a niche, like the hospitality one, or you can be very, or you can have a niche within the type of agency you do.
Do.
Um, mhm.
So I want to talk some numbers so people
Yep.
understand. Can we go back to that first example? So this is some
Mhm.
guy that started building websites for local businesses, charges, whatever. I'm presuming what, a couple of grand, and then he specializes in doing ongoing SEO for them. Is that his essential business model?
Yeah, so he had several business models, and this is not honestly another reason that agencies are quite good, is you can have multiple different um, revenue streams. So if we talk about it, e-commerce, for example, you sell a product, maybe you sell a couple of different products, maybe you get creative and you sell something digital alongside with that product, but you generally got one revenue stream. This guy had four. And that meant that he had someone and they said, can you build this for me and build some SEO around the website? There's
Yeah.
one product. He then held on to that client because he said, well, if you stay on with us, we will continue to do the SEO for you. That's two products, and he's held on to that client. So he doesn't have to acquire another customer to replace him as you would if it was a e-commerce store where every time you sell something, you're
Yeah.
having to replace someone.
Yep.
And then he had decided to do it for businesses, that and tap to a larger enterprise for them, and said, well, not only will we manage your SEO, but we will also manage back office type work for you as
Oh, yeah.
well.
Yeah.
and then was just basically developed this loop of holding on to the customer. And so he actually had quite a, and this is not as traditional in agencies, but he had quite a low value um, uh, average order value. So what he was selling was not overly expensive. It did get more expensive as they grew, but because he was able to hold on to that customer for so long, we're talking years,
All right.
the lifetime value of that customer was really valuable.
Okay.
Um, and then you have, and I'll flip a little bit, but you have other agencies that might sell a higher ticketed price item or higher ticketed price service, and they'll be in the thousands as well. Or sorry, their price average price value might be. I have some that are $40,000,
What, a
but
month
you
or for a service?
but their average orders for the service,
Oh,
yeah.
40 grand.
So
Nice one. So
you don't.
most of our guys, to put it in context too, is most of our guys are charging anywhere from 1,000, once they get good at it, from 1,000 to $3,000 a month, recurring
Yeah,
monthly SEO. So what was that? What was the first one charging? The guy that you sold
we're
to?
talking his average, depending on the different business models, but on the smaller one was only about, I think it was in the 200s was his average order value. But
Whoa,
it was very, very high volume. And that's why I mean you don't have to start off doing
massive. Yeah.
massive ones. You can start off on a lower risk and do
Mm.
some volume and then do your upsells and create new funnels and
Gotcha.
hold on to that customer.
Right. So that's what he did. And so Fiona, how long had he had the business for? So he started out just selling $200 and was still selling $200, a month recurring. How long had he owned the
Mm-hmm.
business for?
For a decade, but he had been in the industry for 20 years. Yeah,
Okay.
25
So
years.
he's been around a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So he's built this thing up,
Mm-hmm.
and his team are all what? Did you say in Indonesia or whatever?
Yep. So he had a team in Indonesia, which meant, again, really good talent, cheaper
Yep.
price than paying someone in Australia.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, they
And
have a great culture there.
and
Yeah.
he could tap into the American. So he was also because he's here in Australia, but he's also tapping into the American market as well. Was he? Was that the gentleman, or was that a different?
And it was a different one, but most of his clients were actually Australian.
Oh, yeah, so they were all
Yeah.
Aussies. All right. And you
Hmm.
sold it like so what you sold it to, you have to share with everyone who you sold it to in a minute. But what going back to the numbers, charging $200 a month, because I
Hmm.
love showing our audience, with say content sites, small amounts quickly add up to big amounts.
Yes.
What was his turnover? What was he well
Uh, turnover, turnover, I think, oh, sorry, might have forgotten this, but it would have been around about, it was just under 200 USD per year in revenue,
oh yeah?
trailing 12 months. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So it
So
was like it was probably a high 150s. Yeah.
and what was he netting then?
He had a fairly high profit margin. I think it was around 50%. So that will range with agencies.
Yeah.
50% is kind of realistic, I would say.
Yep.
When you're getting 70, you don't see that 70% too much because it does take people to do this, right?
Yeah.
Maybe as we have AI jump in and do some stuff, that might increase the profit margins, which that's
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, we'll do another interview
Another
about that. Yeah.
another opportunity there.
Yeah.
And then some will come in around that 20%. And I often see that when you start getting talent in Australia or in America or something like that, where the talent is a bit more expensive. Um,
Yep. So it can,
so
yeah. So these are, so for our new listeners, and actually our experienced listeners, normally we're talking online businesses where we have really high margins. It can be like 70 to 80%. But these
mhm,
ones, because like Fiona said, they do require staff to run. They typically netting, like you said, 50% is good, but they can go from 20 to 50%. You don't often see them higher. So this gentleman's got a nice, pretty cool business sitting there,
mhm,
ticking along year after year, month after month, making this money. How did you value it? What did you value it at, and who did you sell it to?
Yeah, so I valued this one at 555,000 US. I talk in US dollars,
Yep.
and yeah, he was pretty happy with that, right? He was selling to set his family up after he became ill. So he
Okay.
wanted, his motivation is to cash out, get them set up, and you know, be able to not worry. And we ended up selling to a publicly listed company for 565,000. So over asking, which
Well done.
is
So you did the
happy.
deal then. You got that.
Yeah, so this was my deal that I brokered. Uh, that we had to negotiate some things into that. So he's staying on in a consulting capacity,
Yep.
but
That's good.
we're talking about someone who loves what they do. They're very good at what they do, but
Awesome.
they have to offload it for their family, right?
Perfect.
And for their situation. So it really is we as a broker, we need to understand what that person is looking for and what means successful exit for them. And then
Yep.
we figure it out from there. And this one ended up in more than the asking price, which is fun.
Well done, you legend. So you got more than the asking price. Okay, how often does that happen? And obviously you're not allowed to mention the name of the buyer, but what country were they from? Because that's the other cool thing. They're not from
Yes.
Australia.
No, the calls we had to get on it, hours we had to spend. But they're from South Africa. They also had people that were often based in Dubai, and then they had people
Wow.
based in Sweden as well. So we
So,
were often trying to juggle 4 or 5
and
time zones.
that's pretty rare too for a publicly listed company to go to such a small deal. So for our beginners, normally publicly listed companies and private equity won't touch anything under a mil or under a couple of mil, especially with an EBIT that or a net profit, I should say, that small. Um, what attracted them to this business? Why would they buy something so relatively small for a publicly listed company?
But to tap in, kind of what I alluded to before, to the opportunity for them to centralize their operations quickly. They also, having the founder as an expert, allowed them to be able to see the opportunity to grow for this. And they were so gung ho that we were, before we were had the money in everyone's account, it was the seller was already in conversations in South Africa and setting up the same operations, and they were talking about partnerships in the US and all that sort of stuff. So very, very much could see. We don't often sell on opportunity, right? That's
Yep.
definitely a consideration in the valuation, but it's typically on the current state of the business. These sellers, or sorry, these buyers who, publicly listed company from all over the globe could see the opportunity of this operating around the world.
That's cool. And so also presumably they wanted a foot in the Australian markets because they've got all these Aussie
Correct. They had,
clients.
yeah, they didn't
And
have a foot in the market,
and like
mhm.
well, and like you said too, I guess recurring, it's no brainer income. It's just like you said, these were long-term clients, just so it's an easy step into this Aussie, a pretty safe step into the Aussie market.
Yeah, and the clients, I'm talking BMW, I'm talking
Oh
like
wow.
very good enterprise clients, like,
Okay.
um, and that's a consideration as well, right? Like
Yeah.
who are the clients?
Who are the clients? That's awesome. Okay, well done, legend. You're getting more than than the listing price with a South African publicly listed company. That's got to be a first. All right. So that's a
Yeah.
smaller deal. What was one of the seven-figure ones that you've seen? So for our listeners, beginners, they're starting out on the journey, they're building up an agency and whatever, and I want to show them that there's an opportunity to either copy what these big companies are doing. So that's actually really the
Mhm.
one you just shared. I mean, anyone can do that. That's still in the six-figure range and stuff. Now, as we step it
Mhm.
up, though, what can we learn from some bigger deals? What's one of the bigger ones that you've done?
Yeah, so I've got one that's actually today I had a conversation to come back on the market after they went under LOI with another agency that got them a deal that was no good, to be frank. It was,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, it had no cash up front. It was based on share swapping, and it was based on an earnout when the company was going to change the structure of the business. So very, very high risk for the
Like
sellers.
for the seller, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking of selling, this is why you need good advice of an expert M&A broker like Fiona, guys. Super important. That deal would not have worked out well for the seller potentially there.
Correct.
So you got this
Yeah.
listing, and
Yeah.
yeah, what's the what details can you share with us? I know there's
Yeah.
confidentiality agreements and stuff, but what can we learn from this particular one?
Yeah, so I'm the reason I'm very excited about this business is the way that they run it, right? So often when we have agencies, they're done on a project basis, they're done on as needed basis, so they can be a bit lumpy. They can have
Yep.
some lumpiness in their revenue. This agency, so I mentioned them before, they're in the niche of in the hospitality niche. So
Yep.
marketing and marketing agency is such a big blanket statement that if you're trying to be a generalist of everything, it's very overwhelming. It's kind of the that saying, jack of all trades, master at none.
Yep.
You
Yep.
want to be a master at something. So they've picked that niche. They knew it well. They know how to service the customers there, and their customers are restaurants, hotels, so you can
Oh,
see if you got into a Hilton,
yeah.
very easy to go to further Hilton. So it's got a lot of scalability there. But how they have been able to make their business desirable is they've created a retainer. And so they
Nice.
have these enterprise clients on retainer with 90% of what they do is recurring revenue.
Oh, like those. Yeah.
That you're looking at different multiples, right? Like you're looking at a different multiple for that type of business when you go to sell it than
Right.
something that's a little bit lumpier. And of course, you're looking at a lot more buyers because of the risk
Yeah.
is lower.
So what sort of multiple will you put on and can you talk us some numbers? Because this is a bigger deal. Like what are they doing each month recurring? And then how do you value that?
Yeah, so I think recurring, what they've got is about 20, again, US dollars, 20 mil, for
Yeah.
not 20 mil. We would love it if it was
Yeah,
20
that would be
mil.
awesome, right? 20, oh man.
I think that they're doing about 20K each month in recurring and then some additional on top of that.
All right. So like our
Um,
students are doing. All right. This is getting exciting. Okay.
and
Tell us what yeah, man.
um, right now they're valued, I think we're closer to a 4x multiple.
Oh,
Of EBITDA, which is it's a premium for sure.
yeah.
So they might have to consider different deal structures, right? But we would be expecting cash up front. Like
Okay.
as I said to them today, you want to get paid for the 5 years that you've been in that business.
And
Um,
and the
and they won't,
recurring side. Oh,
and the
so it's only
recur.
5 years old, is it?
This one's only 5 years old.
Okay, so how much are you going to put on the market for? Because this is exactly the sorts of numbers our guys want to know, Fiona.
I think we're on the market for 1.5 USD
All
from
right. So
memory.
listeners,
Yeah,
did you
so
hear that? So on
if
the
you're
digital,
an Aussie at the moment, that's a lot of money
that's
because
a lot of money because that's USD. So
yeah.
so for our listeners, and go back through all our podcast list here on the digital investors, you'll see tons of our clients are doing that, are on their way to that 20K, 30K,
Mhm.
50K a month. This is very exciting. So you're going to put that on for around 1.5. So that like you said, that is you going high end multiple because 4 times
Mhm.
multiple, not a usual 3 times the yearly. Um, who is that business based here in Australia or Hong Kong? Did you say? Like, where are the
This
clients?
one's but yeah, this one's based in Hong Kong and they have clients in Hong Kong and Singapore. Um,
And
as I said, the scalability of this business is massive though, with the clientele that they have.
Nice. Okay. And it's a standard, it's selling, yeah, in the hospital. It's a digital agency in the hospitality. It's just niched, it's scalable, it's got 90%
Mhm.
recurring revenues. That's a
Mhm.
really cool guideline there, 4 times. And then who would you, so the buyer for that, could it be anyone? Could it be an American firm? Does it have to be
Mhm.
someone from Hong Kong or Singapore? Or like are you limited in terms of the buyers that you can bring to those guys?
Absolutely not. So, there is no limitation on where the buyer comes from. I think that that's the exciting thing about our reach is we've been around for so long and we've literally got our footprint in so many different markets that we can bring buyers. I see buyers out of Czech Republic. I see buyers out of US and Canada. I see South African buyers. Like it doesn't matter where they're from. What matters is, you know, how qualified are they to take this over?
Yeah.
How are they going to, what are they going to do with the business after they take it over, which in some cases doesn't matter. But in the case of an earnout like this
It,
I previously mentioned, it
yep.
really matters.
It does matter. Yeah, yeah. So, um, who would you expect to be the typical, because as a digital agency is starting to get a little bit bigger, is this going to be who are high net worth or more so like what's your gut feel? I know it's early days yet, but who are you more
Yeah.
likely to sell that to?
Yeah, probably someone with a bit more experience in the agency world, particularly because someone, say they are a high net worth individual who's newer to the digital space or a family office that's a bit newer to the space, they
Mhm.
tend to go for um, business types that maybe are a little bit more simple, for lack
Yeah.
of a better term.
Yeah, so like
Um,
content sites or whatever, or
content, ecom,
e-com.
something, where's the SaaS, the agencies, the are a little bit more expert.
Yep.
You need a bit more expertise, um, and they would likely take that over if they've got a bit of
Lu-
experience,
Luckily,
particularly
that's
once
what
you're
we
handing
teach.
over.
See, luckily, that's what we
Yeah.
teach here at eBusiness. So we've already got clients hitting those 20 grand months and stuff. We've got a few that have done it in their first, oh, not quite in their first year, but definitely in their second year.
Oh my goodness.
So
Yeah.
that's,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
you're
impressive.
going to have to listen to our podcast, Fiona.
I will.
Yeah. Well, this is really exciting news for our members who I'm literally talking about here, who are starting to hit those. So our goal here at Digital Investors or eBusiness Institute is to help people get to their first 10 grand on a month income with an online business of some kind. But here we're starting to hear off you. Once we get into this 20 to 30 grand a month, you're already sitting on and that's got to be net, but you're starting to sit on a 7-figure asset at that level. Once you're hitting, we're telling people once you hit 30 grand recurring, and that's cool to hear that you're listing one now at a 4 times. So it's
Mhm.
not quite there. That's interesting because it's 90% recurring. Um,
Yes.
so Fiona, that was just awesome. It's just really cool hearing these examples. So for our listeners, what is that general? Like generally for a digital agency, that should be their goal. Once they hit that 30 grand a month recurring, what sort of valuations can you expect? I know it's a very, very general question, but
Mhm.
what are you seeing sell out there valuation wise for digital agencies?
Yeah, so um for something that is a bit more lumpy, right? Because you can't always have recurring revenue. It
No.
just might not be the business model. So
Yep.
for something that's a little bit more lumpy, I sold one that based out of Australia. He had Australian contractors. It was a nice, tidy business. Sold it to a high net worth individual in New Zealand.
Cool.
Um, yeah, that's another global one, right?
Yeah.
Or just across the border. And that one sold at a 2 point, I think that was a 2.3 or 2.4
Nice one.
EBITDA.
So how
So
much, what did that, so what was it making and what did it sell for? So like do it
yeah,
per year now. What?
I'm sorry, apologize. I can't remember what it was making, but it sold for, I think, 350K USD.
Okay. So
So it was a bit smaller.
So it was netting around 150, just a bit under 150K.
Correct. And this was
Cool.
he's a 20, I think he's like a 23-year-old guy in New
Oh,
South Wales,
yep.
like really, really smart guy, really talented, and set up a business. And now he's ready to, he sold
What
it
is
to
it?
do something else.
So his income was more lumpy, but you still sold it, no worries, for 350 odd
Yep.
grand. And
Yep. And the reason he was able to do that versus some lumpiness that I see that struggles is because he stayed consistent. What
okay.
happens, because you have to keep again acquiring customers and nurturing those customers and upselling and things like that. So it does have a little bit of a more sales element to it.
Yep.
Again, AI can probably take care of some of that stuff.
Yep.
Um, but he stayed consistent in the business and continued to do that. And then it did the lumpiness did kind of layer out a little bit versus another one I'm thinking of. He's already moved on to his new project and he's kind of trying to keep it going. And so it's quite lumpy because he's on and then he's off, he's on and then he's off. So like I said, if your business model is not reoccurring, that's okay. You just need to have the systems around that to measure out that lumpiness.
Okay. Yeah, that's good advice for our listeners. And if they can show that the monthly figures are consistent, even though there's lumpiness in there, but if the business still ticks along fine, you can still sell the business. Okay, you're not going to get it 4 times like your new favorite listing, but like
Mhm.
with that young guy, the 23-year-old, he's netting what around 150 or obviously a little bit less actually, 130, 140, and you sold it for what did you sell it for? 350K?
Yeah.
Are they all
Yep. So it was
US
like,
numbers?
yes, they're all US
Okay,
numbers.
pretty
Yeah.
cool. Not bad for a
Yeah. So,
23-year-old.
but
That gives him a
no,
serious
that's right.
chunk of cash.
Might be able to buy a house in Australia.
Yeah, no, I doubt it. Not with that. No, he should have gone
No,
for the
no.
30 grand
Yeah.
a month. And then that's our clients. So we want to get them to
Probably, yeah.
the $1 million exits. We've got to get that.
Might get a shack
Yeah, you
somewhere.
might get a
Yeah.
shack. But well, it is a good point of yours, though. How long had he had that agency for? Can you remember? Like, if he's only 23, he can't have had it
That
for
was,
more than five
yeah.
years.
No, no, no. That was about 3 to 4 years, I think, that
So
one. Yeah.
this is cool, Fiona. So thank you for
Hmm.
sharing that because for our listeners, did you hear what Fiona said? You're just hearing it. Within 3 to 5 years, you don't get that when you work for someone. And okay, he had to build it and stuff, but for a 23-year-old, there's zero money down to get into
Mhm.
this. It's not like he's going into debt for real estate, a
No.
350,000, which is around what, 400,000 or 500,000 Aussie. He hasn't had to go in any real estate. He's earned cash flow whilst he's earning that for 3 or 4 years, and he cashes out for the price of an apartment on the Gold Coast. There we go. Um,
Yeah.
not a bad effort for 23-year-old with really very little downside risk. Go, dude, that is cool. So,
Yeah.
this is really exciting. We could talk all day about these examples. You're going to have to come back on the podcast. What do you reckon? You've got some. I've got a feeling you've got some more
Absolutely.
exciting stories to share with our community yet. So I'd love to have you back on again. So if people want to contact you, what's the best way?
Yeah, I'm super active on LinkedIn, so you can always just add me, shoot me a message, and I'll reply. And of course, email is always great too if you wanted to share that with the community.
Yep, no worries. All through the Flippa platform as well. I know
Of course.
you've got all your listings on there. So if you love the sound of having a chat with Fiona about your business, for those of you who are a bit more advanced and thinking about selling, for those of you who are possibly thinking about buying as well, you might want to follow Fiona and see what deals comes along as well. But thank you, Fiona, so much for coming along today. That was unreal. We'll have to get you on for another podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's been a pleasure.